strawberry. Strawberry? Okay, now a little kiwi. I said kiwi, not broccoli! Are you even listening? Discord, or rather one of many Discords wearing yellow hard hats, stuck out his tongue at the one true Lord of Chaos who was wearing a white hard hat. The main hall of Canterlot Castle was bustling, decorations of frightful nature going up right and left, jack-o'-lanterns with changing faces, spiderwebs the size of bedsheets, and numerous bags of bones were tossed about in a never-ending shuffle. It was an orchestra of accidents and happy coincidences, where any mistake ended up helping the room progress into its final form. A place fit to host the castle's annual Nightmare Night celebration. Now, where am I going to put these fourth-dimensional stars? I thought we agreed against the declarations that break the fundamental laws of the universe. Discord turned to look at Celestia as she came into the room, leaving behind an assistant and a few ponies she had been previously speaking to. He tipped back his construction hat, smiled, and held out his clipboard, which bore papers covered in little more than crayon scribbles. But is it really breaking the laws when one of your own ponies managed to imagine such a beautiful structure in a simple drawing? Discord began to climb up in the air, as if walking up steps. Yet even as he went higher, his head began to materialize out of the floor like a ghost. A staircase that keeps climbing up through eternity, and a waterfall that pours downward, only to fall down again. Honestly, it's a shame I never got to meet that particular pony. He sounds like an artist after my own heart. Celestia just rolled her eyes as she looked about the room, taking in the decorations. Chandeliers of black licorice hung from the ceiling, glowing with flames colored like candy corn. One of the Discord's clones was manifesting large black spiders and dressing them up in white ties to be waiters. The centerpiece of the room was a statue of Nightmare Moon, made from spools of silk that moved, turned, and even struck the occasional flirty pose. Just remember, Nightmare Night is Luna's holiday, Discord. See, Discord said, waving his claw. One of the worker clones brought up a tray of ice cubes in the shape of bats, a few of which were twitching with a desire to fly. Discord gave an approving nod, even tickling one with the before looking back at Celestia. No, this isn't really Luna's holiday. If we think of it honestly, this night belongs to Nightmare Moon. Discord chuckled to himself, grabbing a piece of construction paper from a passing clone. A few quick folds, and it was an origami sculpture that looked like Luna. I always wondered how she pulled it off, going from such a little thing to the frightful queen of eternal light. Leaning on demon power would certainly do the trick. He refolded the paper again, even changing its color to look like a jagged, monochromatic rainbow. No, ever since that fateful night, she's not only the one that's used some dark power, is she, Celestia? I do not want to discuss what happened that night, Discord. You know that, Celestia said, her voice carrying an undercurrent of irritation from all the times she had said the very same thing in the past. But I want to have my bedtime story. Discord, in the blink of an eye, was dressed in bright pink pajamas and was tucked into an oversized bed. He transformed his face into that of a big-eyed puppy who was pouting and whining like his favorite toy had been taken away. Discord, haven't I said before that your desire to antagonize Celestia is just a cry for attention, and that there are far more constructive ways to express yourself? The pair of immortals turned, seeing a stallion walking up to them from the main hall's entrance. He had an air of comfort about him, a unicorn that had a subtle smile on his face that seemed totally at ease in his pumpkin-themed sweater vest. A few wrinkles of age marked his face, and his voice was smooth and gentle, a voice most ponies would use only to speak to a scared animal. Dr. Wellwish, I apologize. I did not realize it was already time for our appointment. Celestia smiled at the good doctor while Discord's face fell into a frown. Luna and I finished a bit early. She wanted to pay a visit to some ponies in Ponyville before coming back to the castle for celebration. The Ember Orange Unicorn said as he looked at the army of Discord clones going about the room. I see that the decorations are going well, though you really should have reached out and asked ponies for help, Discord. Organizing a crew of ponies and taking part in this kind of social interaction would be good for you. Discord snapped his claw, making the bed, pajamas, and puppy dog face he had conjured disappear before glaring at the doctor. Don't shrink my brain with your babble, Doc. You don't know me. No, but I would like to. My invitation is for you to join the princess's therapy sessions. Still stands. I think you three, together in a group therapy session, could make great progress. Sorry, can't hear you over the construction work, Discord shouted, motioning for his clones to start making a bunch of loud noises as he walked away. Celestia chuckled and looked at the doctor with a toothy smile. Have I told you before how much I like the effect you have on Discord? Yes, many times, the doctor said, returning the smile as he and Celestia left the din of Discord's clones behind. Though as I've said in our sessions, perhaps telling Discord about the events of that night would not be so bad. It would sate his curiosity and help you come to terms with what happened. I'm not really ready to talk about it with him, Doctor. Yet you are willing to participate in Nightmare Night celebrations with your sister? Celestia nodded as the pair continued into the castle hallways. Despite the origins of this holiday, Luna rediscovered friendship because of Nightmare Night. She has taken and claimed this day, a day where you laugh at the things you fear, a day where you perhaps see that scary things do not even need to be feared in the first place. You sound like you're looking forward to it as well, Wellwish pointed out as the pair rounded a corner. I would not mind having a reason to laugh at the things that go bump in the night. Are you having trouble with bad dreams again? I thought we'd put these night terrors to bed a month ago. We had. It was just one little bad dream last night. Nothing to worry about. Celestia and Wellwish reached her study, the pair moving to their usual places. Celestia walked to her couch while the doctor sat in an oversized chair nearby. Let's review the dream anyway, just to be certain it's nothing to worry about. Where do we begin? Celestia got comfortable, settling in as she had for every session with the doctor since her trip to the catacombs in the old castle. It began like all the others, with a hand reaching out to touch my forehead. You think we'll have enough candy? Pinkie Pie spun on her hooves, the long tail of her sea pony costume gently slapping the faces of the fillies and colts who had been following in her wake. Are you joking? We haven't even reached half the bulls yet! Pinkie then quickly spun back around, the children managing to duck before getting slapped by her sea ponytail again. Now, forward march! With a few anxious glances, the children followed Pinkie's lead. They were all in the oogie-boogie blocks of Ponyville. A small selection of the town had been cordoned off and turned into an open-air haunted house. Bowls of candy stood waiting in strategic locations. Those brave enough to try and steal a few pieces from any given bowl were quickly greeted by an accompanying scare. And the bigger the candy reward, the bigger the dare. Can we at least take a break and go back to the bowl with the apples? The filly in a fairy costume asked. A young colt dressed as a royal guard nodded his head. Yeah, the only thing scary there was some ghosts made out of bed sheets. Pinkie Pie shook her head firmly, leading the group onward. Nope. Fortune favors the bold, my little ponies. And I want to break my candy collection record this year. Now, where should we go next? There's a sign outside of Quills and Sofas. We could go there, or... Stopping dead in her tracks, Pinkie Pie's eyes widened. She and the children had stepped into an intersection. Just ahead of them was Quills and Sofas. But Pinkie's gaze wasn't fixed there. Instead, she was looking to her left. A half block away, resting on the rim of a plaza fountain, was a bowl of candy out in the open. A bowl filled with king-sized candy bars. Troops! We have a new objective! Kingly candy confections at 9 o'clock! To the flank! March! You really think this is a good idea, Pinkie? The filly, dressed as a fairy, asked as the group of children clustered closer together. The street was quiet, with no sign of danger to be seen. A cool wind blew by their necks. The sound of hoofsteps echoed off the buildings, making it sound as if something was stalking them from just beyond their sight.
There could be something really scary over there. Yeah, maybe we should just go to Quill and Sofa's?
Another filly, dressed as a flower, suggested.
No!
Pinkie Pie pointed at the bowl of candy with her hooves.
Those are king-sized candy bars. You almost never see those given away on Nightmare Night. If we get those, we'll be Nightmare Night legends! This'll be a Nightmare Night worth remembering. The candy right over there is worth 6 more stops. Now, come on. Tonight we eat candy like kings!
The mood of the children shifted, inspired by Pinkie Pie's words and raw energy. They cheered, stomping hooves, and those who had them waved toy weapons. The troops then set out, marching towards the unsuspecting bowl of candy. But the stillness lingered, and the children's energy faded as their eyes searched for nearby shadows. They should have seen something. Should have heard the clatter of rusty horseshoes or a moan of some ghoulish costumed pony. But there was simply nothing. Nothing but the candy bowl.
Almost there.
Pinkie Pie whispered as she stared and started to stalk the bowl of candy like a predator, despite her sea pony costume. They were just a few feet away now. A few more steps and the chocolatey goodness would be within reach. And still nothing had leapt out at them. From all the other bowls, they had been scared before getting the candy. That's how it worked. The ponies in costumes scared them. Then those same ponies would either give them the candy with warm smiles, or let them grab their sugary reward as they ran off screaming. Yet for this bowl, with the biggest prize, there seemed to be no guards, no ghouls, and no ghosts.
Maybe we got lucky,
the colt dressed as a royal guard said, trying to break the tension.
Maybe the ponies guarding this bowl are on a break.
The other children nodded, starting to let down their guard. They reached the bowl without incident, and after greedily snatching a king-sized bar for himself, Pinkie Pie let the children cluster around. Each took a candy bar, marveling at its size. Some began telling how they'd bragged their friends about getting a king-sized piece of candy. Others held their massive rectangle of chocolatey goodness, fighting the temptation to open the wrapper right then and there. But as the last filly took her piece of candy, the bowl overturned. It fell off the side of the fountain, shattering against the ground. The remaining candy bars spilled, and for a moment, everything went silent. A few hushed whispers then spread around the children.
You broke it. I didn't break it, she broke it. I did not.
Some of the children argued. Others watched the bowl's shards as each fragment melted into the ground, becoming nothing but black smudges. Those smudges then moved with lives of their own, darting about. The insectile movements made some of the fillies scream and jump, dancing on their hooves. The living smudges scampered off down the street, drawing the eyes of the children away from the fountain. On the wind, the children heard the whinny, followed by a gruesome howl. The wind surged, whipping at their costumes, while the thick plumes of steam rose from every nook and cranny in the ground. Soon the children were surrounded by a thick fog. The surrounding buildings disappeared into a white mist, and the few lit streetlights became nothing more than an amber glow in the fog. Then came a pattering, a quick, passing sound of something running just beyond sight.
What was that?
The fairy filly shouted, stumbling back to the other fillies and colts. They pressed their backs against the fountain. Another terrible whine cut through the air, and it brought with it another gust of wind. The fog that had been surrounding them was blown away in a matter of seconds. The colts and fillies, for a moment, believed they were safe. There was nothing in the streets, no creature revealed by the lifting fog, but there was a sound, a slow dripping of water. It came from behind them, the splish and splash of water growing louder as a dark, massive shadow fell upon them. For a few seconds, none of the children had the courage to look back. They just stood perfectly still, listening to the dripping of water and a heavy, belabored breathing. Then slowly, a few of the fillies and colts looked back and saw what was casting the shadow upon them. It was a massive, covered in sickly green fish scales, and with a wet, gangly black mane that hung across the beast's muzzle. Its jagged, sharp fangs protruding from its mouth, like the craggy edges of a cave. Its odor of rotting fish washed over the children as a finned tail splashed in the shallow water of the fountain. The creature looked at them for a few brief moments, then threw its head forward, unleashing a terrible whine that had undertones of a roar. It sounded as if the creature was beginning its hunt. The fillies and colts all screamed, breaking down the street as fast as their hooves would carry them. Only one pony remained behind, so enchanted by her king-sized candy bar that she hadn't noticed the theatrics that had just gone on around her. The beast drew in close to Pinkie Pie, extending its hoof and poking her once in the shoulder. This finally seemed to snap the party pony back to reality, as she looked over her shoulder. Her eyes then narrowed to dots, and for a moment she stared at the furred face just inches from her own. The beast then gave a snort, pointing snot at its bared teeth.
Ah! Kelpie, run!
Pinkie Pie was gone a moment later, the sea ponytail of her costume flailing behind her as the Kelpie howled into the night. Once Pinkie was gone, however, the fishy's figure's lips curled into a smile and a feminine chuckle escaped its lips. A magical glow enveloped the beast, its shape changing back to a more familiar figure. At the same time, the black smudges that had hidden around the plaza came rushing back. They assembled themselves back into the bowl, while the box of candy levitated out from the safety of a nearby roof to replenish the supply of chocolates.
That was a good one, Princess Luna.
The Kelpie, or rather, Princess Luna, finished dispelling her illusion charm and stepped out of the fountain as Twilight walked up to her.
Thank you, Twilight. And your costume looks wonderful this evening.
The recently coronated Twilight smiled, swirling on her hooves to show off her costume. The four princesses of Equestria had, at Twilight's inspiration, decided to dress as one another for the Nightmare Night party in Canterlot. Twilight had dressed as Celestia, managing to get her mane and tail to mimic Celestia's natural magical hair very accurately. Surely the only thing missing now was Celestia's mane, constantly waving in a non-existent wind. The costume's final touches were a few fake royal garments, though Twilight did make use of her real crown. Beyond that, Twilight, like all the princesses, kept her cutie mark and coat color the same. Still, despite the costume's visual simplicity, Twilight couldn't help but smile at Luna's compliment.
Thank you,
Twilight said.
Still, we need to get going if we're going to make it back to Canterlot in time. Even with your teleportation spell, we do have a few more minutes early.
Yes, of course, Luna said, calling on her own magic once again. In another small flash of light, she had taken on Cadence's color. Tones of pink, purple, and yellow filled her mane, and her royal garments were transformed into more accurately match what Cadence normally wore.
Do you have a replacement for my position? I would hate for the children to get such candy treasure without a scare.
Twilight waved her hoof reassuringly before the pair turned to leave.
Don't worry. Zecora is going to fill in for you. That magic powder she has can pull some really spooky stuff, though I doubt she'll be able to compete with such a convincing Kelpie.
You flatter me, Twilight, Luna said, turning to head down an alley, one of many that bridged the oogie-boogie blocks of Ponyville's more traditional Nightmare Night festivities. Yet, as she began to step down the alley, she felt quite alone. Looking back, she saw that Twilight had stopped on the edge of the narrow passage.
Is something the matter?
Forcing a smile, Twilight shook her head.
Oh, no. Nothing's wrong. Just thought I'd forgotten something.
Twilight lifted her hoof, trying to take the first step into the alley, yet she hesitated, like she was trying to convince herself to dip her hoof into hot lava. Luna knew the look and walked back to Twilight's side before offering a comforting smile.
We can take the long way if you wish.
Oh, yeah.
We're not in that big of a hurry. Let's enjoy the walk. Yes, a nice walk. The long way,
Twilight said, laughing nervously.
You don't have to try and conceal your feelings, Twilight,
Luna reassured her.
You're still scared of small spaces, are you not?
Twilight sighed, nodding as the pair took the wide open street back out of the Oogie Boogie blocks.
I'm not mad that you put me in that coffin. The decision probably saved my life. It still gets to me. A little bit.
She turned and looked to Luna as the pair continued to walk.
What about you? Are you still seeing your therapist?
I am, Luna said with a confident grin. I had a breakthrough with Dr. Wishwell a few weeks ago. It is part of the reason why I felt I could enjoy Nightmare Night this year. Her grin softened into a content smile as her eyes wandered across the spooky decorations she and Twilight were passing. It is interesting, the field of psychology. I have to wonder if things might have gone differently 1,000 years ago, if I had been able to talk with a pony educated in matters of the mind. The pair stepped out into the Oogie Boogie blocks and into parts of Ponyville that were celebrating Nightmare Night in a more traditional sense, with dancing, festival games, and pumpkin tossing. A few ponies smiled and waved at the two princesses, and they gladly waved back as they continued to talk. It's hard to say, Twilight commented. Yes, it is. But we can't let things like that put us down, as Dr. Wellwish put it. After all, we do truly have to worry about this evening, Luna asked.
Oh, I could think of a few things, Twilight answered. For the first time, we'll be attending the Nightmare Night celebration and Canterlot as a princess. There's plenty to be worried about regarding that. We also can't forget that Discord did the decorations this year. He could have set up some kind of elaborate prank just to ruin your and Princess Celestia's reputation with Canterlot's upper class. Let's not forget that Princess Celestia is going to see my costume, and that I may have made a copy of her mane too poofy. It isn't too poofy, is it? Princess Luna laughed, placing a reassuring wing over Twilight's back as the pair arrived outside Ponyville's library. Your reproduction of my sister's mane is flawless, Twilight. Also, if the fact Discord may have prepared a prank for our guests concerning, then I think we can say that tonight is going to go very well. Twilight laughed, nodding her head as she stepped into the library's door. Yeah, I guess things are going back to normal if the only thing I'm worrying about is how my mane looks. Still, just let me grab a few things, then we can teleport to Canterlot. The teleportation spell occurred, as so many had before. Twilight felt the sensation of being whisked away, like she was a feather in a tornado. The sensation was brief, and was over just as quickly as it had begun. She could feel a firm ground beneath her hooves again. She opened her eyes and looked upon the warm lights of Canterlot Castle. Discord had really outdone himself. The Grand Ballroom was like a wonderland of Nightmare Night, where spooky things were turned a bit silly for the amusement of the guests. Menacing spiders the size of basketballs crawled across the ceiling, but they were no threat. In fact, they were the servants attending to the crowd. They were dressed in little tuxedos and descended on lines of silk to offer guests food and refreshment. Though the spiders' polite behavior didn't stop them from scaring the few Aristopony guests out of the party. A skeleton band played for the crowd, using some of their own bones for instruments. There was also a set of stone busts that, for some songs, sang in harmony like a barbershop quartet. Ghosts made out of streamers floated by. Bats made of licorice fluttered through the air, spreading the aroma of candy all around. About the only thing normal was the food, which was prepared by the castle's kitchens, as the one bit of normalcy amidst Discord's festive chaos. There you are, Celestia said, coming up to Twilight and Luna. Her mane and tail were toned just as Twilight's was, and Celestia had even taken the magic from her mane so her hair hung a bit more naturally. Though, to accommodate it, she had to wear some of it up in a bun. I was beginning to worry that you spent the whole night in Ponyville. I could have, sister, Luna admitted, but I'm glad Twilight and I arrived here as promised. The decorations are marvelous. Oh, thank you, Luna. It's nice to have my work appreciated. The three mares turned to look at Discord. He was descending from the servant spider webs on the ceiling, a trail of silk streaming from his nose until he had his claw and hoof on the ground. Then he tugged at the line,
making it pop free of its anchor before he snorted it back into his nose like a single long booger. It was a sight that made all the three princesses grimace. Though I wish I could say the same about your costumes. If you were going to do the swap, you could have at least dyed your coats. Discord snickered. I'd give up chaos for a day to see Celestia and Luna walking around in purple and pink while they waited for their coats to grow back. Oh, can you imagine the look on the diplomats' faces? It'd be worth the price of admission and popcorn, but not the soda. I find it difficult to take your criticism, Discord, when you don't seem to be in a costume, Luna pointed out. Getting dressed up loses some of its luster when I can be whatever I want at the snap of my paw or claw or even tail. To prove his point, Discord snapped his paw, and in a flash became almost an exact doppelganger to Celestia, minus his manic red and yellow eyes. Why, even the Changeling Queen doesn't have anything on me. He snapped his claw, this time turning into the insectile queen of the Changeling Hive, and speaking in the Queen's strange insectile voice. Oh, perhaps that would be the greatest of costumes. To be the Changeling Queen disguised as someone else. Or perhaps Luna as Nightmare Moon changed into the crown the Changeling Queen was wearing when she was disguised as Cadence. Or maybe... We understand, Discord, Celestia said, cutting him off, though he smiled, and she had a smile lingering on her lips. It is good to see you enjoying yourself. I'd be enjoying myself more if you had let me go my original design. The fifth-dimensional architecture would have really turned some heads. Still, I have guests to attend to, and you three should go find the fourth in your little masquerade swap. I believe she's in the outer hall, muttering about some spiders.
But they're just something Discord made. Didn't you see them, Twilight? They're huge! The whole ceiling is a web. They seem nice enough to me. You wouldn't be saying that if they were snakes.
Celestia chuckled quietly to herself as she stood back with Luna. Twilight and Cadence were going around in circles for the past few minutes. Celestia would admit she hadn't foreseen Cadence's arachnophobia being an issue when she first saw Discord's decoration. Trust the spirit of chaos to cause trouble in such a manner as he could claim possible deniability. Your Highness, it's about time for you to make your speech. Celestia nodded to the guard who had poked his head out of the ballroom. Thank you. We'll be along in a few moments. Of course, Your Highness. Also, this arrived via messenger. It had orders with it being delivered straight to you. Celestia arched her brow and turned to face the guard. He held out a small wooden box. It was finely polished and looked almost like a jewelry box or something you'd put very expensive quills into. By whose order was it delivered directly to me? If the letter accompanying the messenger is to be believed, it was your order, Your Highness. Celestia gave a small humph, turning the box over as she tried to remember what it could be. Perhaps was it the new stick for Philomena's perch? No, that was to arrive by standard mail in a few days. Was it? Sister? Celestia turned her head quickly to look at Luna. Sorry, what was that? It appears Twilight has calmed Cadence down, at least enough to stay with us on the bike stand during the address of the guests. Perhaps we should go before Cadence changes her mind again? Yes, of course, Celestia said, still levitating the box and her magic as she turned to the doors of the ballroom. Let's get this boring little speech out of the way, so we can enjoy the night properly, and so you and Twilight can return to Ponyville if you so choose. Luna nodded, and in a few more moments the four princesses walked out into the ballroom. The skeletal magicians on the bandstand stepped back, giving the small raised stage to the four mares as all the guests turned their attention to the princesses. Perhaps it was a bit old-fashioned, but the higher-class sorts of Canterlot came to expect any party with the princesses to be accompanied by at least a few short words. On the stage, Twilight stood next to Cadence, the pair a few steps behind Celestia and Luna, since they weren't expected to say anything. Twilight was also holding Cadence's hoof, keeping the princess of the Crystal Empire from looking at the many spider servants that watched from the party on their web. Luna was at the front. Her nightmare night had become her night. She had chosen to own the holiday as her own rather than abolish it, and thus it was proper that she was who made the speech to the castle's festivities. Celestia stood just off to the side, the box still held in her magic. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Discord for graciously providing the decorations for this year's party. I think we can all safely agree that we've never enjoyed such wonderful, creative, and lively decorations. The crowd chuckled a bit and applauded. Discord himself allowed to float a bit above the rest of the ponies as he took a few bows. The loudest applause came from the spiders. The one had to question their bias. Celestia applauded politely as well, though she couldn't help but glance at the box in her magic. For a moment it felt as if it was about to slip from her grasp, but as she looked at it, it was held in her levitation, still strong. And I would next like to thank those of you who have been gracious enough to spend your evening with us. Nightmare Night is a holiday about being afraid, but I feel it is also a holiday about learning to face your fears. A night when the things that scare you aren't as dangerous. A night when the spider or snake or ghost before you is just really a friend in a costume. A night where you can laugh and look upon the things that scare you with a few new light. Once more the crowd applauded, Celestia joining in as well, but she couldn't take her eyes off the mysterious wooden box. Something about it just compelled her to look at it, to bring it to the front of her chest, to even open it. All it took was a little effort, and the box snapped open to reveal a rich, red velvet interior that cradled the box's cargo with great care. Once upon a time, Luna continued, I was such a thing to fear. This holiday was made, in fact, by ponies who feared my return and what terrible disaster it would bring. True, the legends have changed over time. I personally do not recall the time that I gobbled children, and I would be much heavier set if I did eat such sugar-addled fibblies and colts. The audience laughed, but Celestia almost didn't hear it. Her eyes were fixed on the contents of the box. It was a horn crown, a type of jewelry worn directly over a unicorn's horn. It was made of polished silver that spiraled like grasping vines. It almost looked like some piece of abstract art. There were small words etched upon the silver as well. But now I want children to laugh at Nightmare Moon. I want them to laugh at the idea that I, their princess of the night, would ever turn to hurt them. I want them to laugh so that those dark years can slowly fade into history. I want them to laugh so that, in time, the laughter will forgive the mistakes that I have once made. So again, thank you all for attending, and now one final word from my sister. Every pony looked to Celestia, expecting her to step forward, but she remained perfectly still. She didn't even notice the room full of eyes watching her. She was just focused on the horn crown. It was so pretty. Perhaps she had seen it in a window shop. Yes, or maybe, did she make it? She couldn't remember, her thoughts like the vapors of a dream that disappeared in the morning sun. Sister? Luna's pressed words made Celestia look up, and she quickly smiled before stepping forward. She still held the box in her magic, but ignored it entirely for a moment as she took Luna's place at the center of the stage. She looked out across the ponies and began to speak, even as her magic levitated the horn crown out of the box. Yes, she was remembering tonight. This was for tonight. Something special just for tonight. Maybe a gift for her sister? I would like to reiterate what my sister said. Tonight isn't about being fearful of Nightmare Moon, of ghosts, of werewolves, of zombies, or of anything so silly. No, tonight? Celestia's voice trailed off as she looked at the horn crown. She began to levitate it higher, bringing its open, ringed bottom to the tip of her own horn. Yes, this wasn't for Luna. This was for her. It was for her. She had made it for herself because she told her to make it. This is what she wanted. Tonight is when you all learn true fear. A few among the crowd forced a few chuckles, taking Celestia's odd behavior as some sort of joke. Among those who didn't laugh was Discord, who was staring at Celestia as if she had just drawn a sword on him. Luna was concerned, walking up beside Celestia, her gaze shifting between her sister and the horn crown on Celestia's magic. What are you doing? I'm just doing what he wants me to do. Celestia answered, Her face stretched into a smile way too large for the dark tone of her words. She began to lower the piece of silver down onto her horn, a cold chill filling the air as she did. Sister, what do you mean? Who is...
Luna! Stop her!
Discord shouted, the spirit of chaos disappearing out of existence only to reappear next to Celestia. He reached for the silver with his paw, but upon touching it he howled in pain and quickly stumbled back. His paw smoked as if burnt, white, red runes glowed upon the silver. Before another thought could cross anyone's mind, before Luna could attempt to stop Celestia, and before another heart could beat in the room, Celestia let the silver crown go. It fell upon her horn, sliding into place, and Celestia screamed. She screamed so loud and long, forcing each creature in the room to shut its eyes just for the scream's painful volume. It was a scream of pain and of pure, unbridled terror, a scream that chilled all who heard it straight to the bone. Only when the scream began to fade did the attendants of the party open their eyes. Only then did they realize the pure, unending darkness that they had been plunged into.